Today we're thrilled to welcome back Rick Peckham, renowned guitarist and Berklee College of Music educator. A previous guest on the podcast, Rick's here to talk about his book, Guitar Chords 101. It's a fantastic resource for guitarists of all levels. If you missed his first appearance, be sure to check it out. And I'm really looking forward to catching up with him and talking about the book. So, Rick, good to see you.
Great. It's great to see you too, Abe. Thanks for having me on before and having me back on this occasion too.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, I have, if everyone could take a look and see what this book looks like, it's got a great cover on it. You can't miss it. Rick, writing a book is no small task, and you certainly have other books out as well. And this is really a transformative book too. So what's been the most fulfilling aspect of writing Guitar Chords 101?
Yeah, uh, there are a lot of, especially with the advent of YouTube, there are just so many confusing options for people to have. I think there are things that are very, very basic, and I think there are things that are very, very advanced. But as far as to have some kind of bridge between the basic and the advanced, and how do you really build on solid skills, I still think there's a lot of room for that, and that's sort of the niche that's been involved with coming up with this. So yeah, it's uh, this is really 20 years that I've been working on this course. The course went live online at berkleemusic.com in 2006, 2005. I was working on it, and yeah, this is sort of like the culminating moment of this.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting that we're on the Rabbit Hole Sessions podcast because this book definitely it goes down the rabbit hole into, the mechanics and artistry of playing. What's the, ultimate goal? Once people are, have finished the course, finished the book, what do you hope for the guitarist to really take away and have in their playing?
Well, I want people to be able to play good sounding chords, really. I mean, it sounds silly, but really good sounding chords. There are a lot of sort of dusty parts of a lot of people's chordal vocabulary, or even chords that they play every day. There are dusty bits of that. I mean, do you really mean that note, that note on the first string? Is that supposed to be on there? Do you want to be on it? It's really sort of playing with intent. And to me, it's good sounding chords with great note choices, with a good tone and balance, making it so if it's a four voice chord, that you can hear Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. You hear all four of them with like you would have a balanced choir. And that's a tough one for a lot of people. And then of course, nothing means anything unless you're playing it with great time feel. So it's a big ask out of a book, but there are a lot of recorded examples of a great rhythm section. I'm demonstrating the stuff, and then I'm muted so people can get in there and do it themselves, and hopefully record themselves playing it, listen back. I mean, there's a great teacher I met a long time ago, Bill Dobbins, who said the recording machine is to the musician as the mirror is to the dancer. You listen to yourself, not just to admire yourself. And dancers don't look at themselves in mirrors to admire themselves. They are looking to see themselves as the audience sees them. To me, in this audio medium, um, I want people to, well, as I tell my students, when they're recording themselves with this, you should end up with a recording on whatever assignment you're working on, that you would have no problem charging somebody $500 for that recording. Even though it's an exercise, when you're sending a recording to somebody, to a stranger, they don't know who you are. They're not a family member. They're just listening. If the chords sound good, they sound good. If they don't sound good, they're not impressed and they're going to keep looking.
Yeah, I don't think guitarists, realize how deep um the visualization goes when it comes to, looking at the neck, but it's also, it's definitely crucial for them to, develop the visualization skill instead of just relying on the static shapes.
Yeah, I agree, and it's funny to hear somebody that's selling a chord book to talk about you shouldn't need a chord book to do this. But to me, yeah, that is the big thing, is relating one chord sound to another chord sound rather than just memorizing a whole bunch of these shapes to pop into your head. The idea is to make them malleable, to make it so that you can change from one to another. I don't know if this will work, but let me try this. This might be a rabbit hole sessions exclusive here. Let's see if I can pull this up. This is something I use in my online teaching, but this idea of, like if you're taking a six-string voicing, and that's this is sort of like a drop three voicing with shapes on it. The root is on the bottom in this particular one, and there's the flat seven. If I wanted it to be the major seven, I would just go up on that string. The third is there again. This is one with a dominant seventh that I'm doing. So flat seven and three. That's the molecular center of the chord. The third and the seventh. But then, do you want a sharp five or a 13 or a flat five or a flat nine, a nine or a sharp nine? Any of those are, choices that are there. And this would represent, like 20 pages in a chord book. But if you can really, as you say, visualize this, you can just mix and match and make it so that you're kind of, just instead of just memorizing words, you're using vocabulary.
Well, that's the yeah. If you're saying like, I'm wondering like, what does it sound like to go from the G13, and what does it sound like to go from the 13 to the five? On the B string, it's clear. It's not like you could just you know what it sounds like, but you also know exactly what you're playing as far as the upper structures and the colors and everything, and the way you would lay it out. You're giving the guitarist the we can explore moving from one to the other and like what do these actually sound like. It's actually a really great system.
I sure hope so. It's worked before, and yeah, I've gotten a lot of good feedback over the years in this approach with the onliners from all over the world, and yeah, this a lot of them are actually picking up the book and using it as a review, and others are using it as an introduction to the approach in the first place.
When you go on and look at the guitar chord voicings on Berklee and you see the number 13,550 already enrolled.
Yeah.
That's a small town.
Yeah, that absolutely is right. Yeah, it is. It's huge, and I'm not saying that all of them are regulars. At the Music Theory headquarters there or Sound and Grade headquarters, but yeah, there's the passionate interest with the Berklee name that is, it's lasted for decades. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like you have a really good relationship with Berkeley Press. I mean, and that do you sort of have, carte blanche to present these ideas to them and it's or you know uh you have freedom in that way. You could present them an idea and say this is what I'd like to do because this is great.
Yeah, well, it's sometimes they contact me and they say they see a niche of something that they would like to see. I mean, the Chords 101 class at berkeleymusic.com has been a pretty solid hit. So they were really interested in having a kind of a spin-off of that to complement the experience of people taking it and also to use as a taster for other people. But yeah, I can pitch ideas to them, and there's a varying level of enthusiasm. I mean, they're interested in sales, that's for sure. Yeah, and it's an interesting world, that's for sure. I mean, one thing I would say is there's a thing called groove3.com, and that's the word groove and then the number three and then .com. That is Hal Leonard's kind of approach to having an online kind of Kindle sort of approach to things. So there's a version of this book that lives up there that makes it very easy to see the recorded examples and so on to play along, and it's just sort of another media to make it so you can look at that on your iPhone or whatever handy media that you have. So they're interested. And they've been well, actually the roots go back to ultimatetab.com. The company that was involved with that actually uh, is the kind of the parent of Hal Leonard now. So they are very interested in online things that bring things together for people. And Abe, for you, I mean, if you checked out this groove3.com, you'd see all of your favorites from Berklee. They've ported a lot of the old books and so on. Sometimes I think they don't have the sound files with them, but some titles that you would recognize.
Oh yeah, I mean the some of those Berkeley Press books, and they're just there's nothing like them. There's
Steve Rushinsky's reharmonization technique book, unbelievable. It is great. I mean, he was, I don't know if you took any classes with him, but he was one of the kingpins of the harmony department, right there with Barry Nettles and so on. And his book on Berkeley Press is a fantastic one, that's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely remember, when I studied with Garrison Fuel,
Mhm.
we worked through his book, and
Yeah.
it was so helpful. I'm sure it's still helping people today. People are going to open your book, and they're gonna see the title Chords 101. It's obviously going to be about harmony. There are certain players who are established in their understanding of harmony and the instrument, but then there's those others who want to get to the next level in their playing of understanding the instrument.
Mhm.
So for those who feel maybe a little bit daunted by the process of getting to that next phase, what would you say to them to help them not feel as intimidated by the next level?
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it's like the old joke. It's like how well do you read on the guitar? And they'd say, well, not well enough to affect my playing. It's like it's so there is always that. Yeah, there's always that kind of well, just sort of like, hey, nobody really does this sort of thing. But I think guitarists are always curious about, what's going on in the machine. Why does this kind of voicing work here? What is going on there? And I'm not saying you have to be able to take a car apart and put it back together again to drive it, but if cars are your life, to be able to get in there and tinker around is something that repays the energy. And what I would say is you practice theory like you practice the guitar. Really, I mean, and I'm not saying that you should let it get in the way of your playing, but I'm just saying have it help augment it.
And
Um,
even so too, I mean, even though there are so many concepts in the book, a player could really draw from two or three ideas, work them through the keys, and that just becomes a part of the way, they approach chords. I mean, even if they take just a couple of things and really, you know, master them, that could become part of their concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's back to the thing we talked about before. I think you play to learn, you don't learn to play. And you look to find some circumstances that you can use the stuff. If the theory doesn't stand the test of, like, well, why would I want to know this? Then, it doesn't deserve to live in your consciousness. You need to get in there and make it so that it's relevant. There's a section where I talk about like the secret handshake that is in every fake book, every real book, or whatever that you use. Whereas if you take what is the word? Well, if I take the word TEAR and put an S on it, TEARS, you know. You have to look to see what the next word is. Is it tears on the edge of a paper, or is it tears of joy?
Right.
You have to look at the next words. And when you're looking at a fake book and you see an A7, you really don't know what kind of A7 to play unless you see it's going to a D major or it's going to a D minor. If that A7 is going to a D minor, you're going to want to have that flat 9 and flat 13 usually. And if it's going to a major sound or another dominant sound, then you're going to be using the natural 9 and the natural 13. This might be too deep for some people, but I don't think it's hard for guitarists to understand, especially because if they're playing a cowboy chord A7 with a fake book, it's just not going to fit the sound. If you're playing a dominant seventh chord, there's a one tension minimum. It's like a one drink minimum in a bar or whatever. You got to have some kind of ninth or some kind of 13th in there. Otherwise, you just sound like somebody that is just picking it up and maybe has some interest. But you've got to these rules can be life saving, and once you're on the other side of them, you can tell other people about them or keep it a secret yourself.
No, the why is so
Yeah,
important.
yeah.
And that's what I think um, the book is, sort of prioritizing that deeper level of why, instead of just memorizing shapes.
Oh yeah, well, and just to jump on that for a second, like on the A7 that's going to a D major, if you play a natural 13 on that, that's an F sharp. That is like a spoiler alert. It's saying, hey, here comes D major. It's
Mhm.
reinforcing the resolution. It's making a smooth kind of like a craftsman, like a dove corner on a cabinet, going from that major sound to the major sound. Same thing with minor. If I play the flat 13 on that A7, that would be an F natural. That's saying, hey, D minor's coming.
Yeah.
And, that's what it takes.
Yeah. What was the most challenging thing about this book versus the other books you've written?
Well, it's just sort of the responsibility of having the Berklee name and people knowing that people were going to pick it up, thinking that it's Berklee kind of policy or whatever. To me, I just try to make things as clean and clear as possible with as little mumbo jumbo as possible. And I guess really is to be inclusive enough so that people could practice the material enough to have some level of fluency. There's a lot of times books will say, take this into 12 keys and see you later. This really, I go through it. If you want to know the material, it is there. There are chord blocks that show you where to put your fingers. You can use different fingering if you want. There is tab if you want to use the tab, or if you don't, it's still there anyway. And then there's, of course, the notation as well. So it's a question of being thorough enough, but not making it longer than War and Peace. That was the challenge. Yeah.
No, no, it's a fantastic book, and I know you've got some other things that are, coincide with this book as well. Like you had mentioned, the Groove website and everything. Can you just talk a little bit about that, just a little more?
Yeah, yeah. Groove3.com is a new thing that I just found out about actually while I was getting ready to talk to you. And I was surprised to see this book is up there. My wife, who's Ann Peckham, is the chair of the voice department. All of her books are up there. I was like, wow, I didn't even know this was here. So, anyway, Hal Leonard's very serious about this. And other books I've done are on Kindle. I don't think Hal Leonard is doing that anymore. They're supporting this. There's also a thing called Coursera.org, and that is it's a free website that is involved with kind of introductions to different things, philosophy courses from Yale and Harvard and so on. But Berkeley's got some things up there as well. And yeah, the many people have done that. Tens of thousands of people have taken the one that says voicings up the neck. It's a guitar class that I have there. There are some others from Berklee people there as well. It's like a 5-week introduction that kind of goes along with this book as well. And then there's the 12-week course called Berklee Guitar Chords 101. That's the biggest tie-in where you work with me or other faculty who facilitate it. They listen to your examples each week and give you feedback, telling you what's going on, which is really, I mean, I think that is really the secret sauce to the success of the program. You're actually, you have to make that recording and send it off and know somebody with ears is going to be listening.
Right. So there's going to be someone actually hearing what you're doing versus, there's not no AI. That's you can't fool somebody with this.
Yeah, and what I'd say to the students at Berkeley, I mean, it's like, if you're playing a little bit out of tune or a little bit out of time, Nobody's going to like it. I mean, your family might say that they like it, but they're lying. They lie to you all the time.
Yeah, no, they're no, and that's the thing too, with all of those amazing faculty members to, you know,
hmm
they're at the highest level. Have you been getting, um, certain feedback from your colleagues about the book on the faculty that they're really enjoying it and find it very useful?
Yeah, I've been spreading it around the ones the faculty who are also teaching the course online. They really like it that it's all organized in one place. The other ones, well, to be honest, I mean, a lot of them just look at it and just shake their heads and say, "Wow, I don't know how you did all that stuff." Yeah, it's like it's it's a big lift, but I think it's clear, and it's sort of like it doesn't have to be sequential that you go through it. There, you could be running into particular challenges in a tune, and you just look through it and say, "Oh yeah, triads over bass notes. This is something I got to work on," and hopefully, people will find it as a constructive way to build those skills.
Yeah, you can jump around in it,
Yep,
absolutely.
yep, that's right.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy you got you sent it to me, and I'm certainly exploring it as well as your other books and everything. So where can everybody pick up a copy of Guitar Chords 101?
Well, it's on Amazon.com. It's on Hal Leonard's website. It's at Groove 3, Barnes and Noble, all of those places. It's really, wherever any of those things are sold. You sent me a list of questions, which was great, and I really appreciate that. It's like, as far as the best thing about doing this is to hear people that have gone through it say that they've gotten compliments from other people in their bands.
Yeah,
That's the hardest compliment to get is from another dude that's in your band, and they just say, "Hey, what are you doing with your chords?" I mean,
yeah,
there's
there's always the tension and release relationships among band members, and when you can floor another band member, then you know you're in a
yeah.
good space that day for sure.
Yeah, they're not just doing it because they like you. They're just like, "Hey, what's going on over there? We got to find out." Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do is sneak in there and help people to get compliments from the other band members that are genuine.
No, you're a genuine educator, and you're so generous to share all these these things in your books and everything. There's educators out there who they want to hold on to their methods, but
Yeah.
you are certainly not that person. And in the guitar community, we really appreciate and just and yeah, thanks so much for coming on and talking about the book.
It's a total pleasure, Abe. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm just trying to pass on from great people like Jack Peterson and Dan Hurley and Rich Madison and all of the greats at Berklee, including Mick Goodrick and Hal Crook and Jerry Bergonzi. All of them are people that have help break down the codes so that I could try to do the same for others. That's what I'm trying to do.
No, that's beautiful. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Abe.